A chance encounter that changed everything. Emily Carter was a young woman with dreams far bigger than her modest life allowed. At just 23 years old, she worked tirelessly at Maggie's Diner, a small, rundown restaurant tucked away in the heart of New York City. The peeling paint on the walls and the constant flicker of the neon open sign outside mirrored the struggles she faced daily. Yet, despite the long hours, low wages, and life's relentless challenges, Emily always managed to smile. She had a rare gift, not just for serving customers with grace and efficiency, but for making people feel truly seen and valued. Her kindness wasn't performative. It was genuine, natural, and often unnoticed. But for those who paid attention, it was unforgettable. Every night after her shift, Emily had a ritual. She would gather leftover food from the diner, sandwiches that hadn't sold, bowls of soup still warm, and pack them neatly into brown paper bags. On her walk home through the damp streets of New York, she'd hand out the food to the homeless people she passed. To her, it was a simple act of kindness. To those she helped, it was a lifeline. One particularly bitter evening, rain poured relentlessly, soaking the city streets. Emily hurried home, clutching her worn jacket tightly around her. Her boots splashed through puddles as she made her way through the near-deserted streets, her breath visible in the cold air. She was nearly home when she noticed a small figure huddled under a bus stop shelter, a young boy, no older than 8, shivering beneath the plastic covering. His clothes were soaked through, his thin arms wrapped tightly around his knees. Emily paused, her heart aching at the sight. "Hey there," she called out softly, kneeling beside him. "Are you okay? Where are your parents?" The boy looked up, his wide brown eyes filled with fear. I don't have anyone," he whispered. "I'm hungry." Without a moment's hesitation, Emily took his small, freezing hand in hers. "Come with me. Let's get you warm." The rain soaked them both as they made their way back to the diner, but Emily didn't care. Once inside, she wrapped the boy in a clean blanket from the back storage and served him a steaming bowl of tomato soup. She sat with him as he ate, watching the way his face lit up with every spoonful. Despite the cold rain outside, Emily felt a warmth in her chest she hadn't felt in a long time. But what Emily didn't realize was that someone had been watching. Across the street, a sleek black car sat idling, its wipers brushing away sheets of rain. Inside, Nathaniel Hayes, a billionaire known for his sharp business instincts and elusive nature, sat behind the wheel. He wasn't supposed to be there, not really. After a long, stressful board meeting, he had decided to take a drive through the quieter parts of the city to clear his head. But then he saw her. At first, it was just curiosity, a young woman kneeling in the pouring rain beside a homeless boy. But as he watched her gently take the boy's hand and guide him through the storm to the diner, something stirred deep within him, something he hadn't felt in years. "Who is she?" Nathaniel murmured to himself, his gaze fixed on the diner's glowing windows. He sat there for a few more minutes, watching Emily laugh with the boy inside, her wet hair sticking to her face as she served him food. There was something about her, something pure, unguarded. He scribbled the name of the diner on a notepad in his console before driving away, but the image of Emily lingered long after he returned to his sleek penthouse. Days of wonder. The next few days passed in a blur for Emily. Between double shifts and caring for her younger brother, Liam, who depended on her to pay for his school fees, she barely had time to think about the young boy she had helped. But the memory of his grateful smile lingered, fueling her through the exhausting hours. Meanwhile, Nathaniel found himself unable to shake thoughts of the waitress. He had everything money could buy: penthouse apartments, sports cars, private jets, but he hadn't felt a genuine spark in years. Yet, the sight of a young woman selflessly helping a homeless child in the rain had moved him deeply. He needed to see her again. On a brisk Thursday evening, Nathaniel made his decision. He dressed in a tailored navy blue suit, far too expensive for a visit to a rundown diner, but he didn't care. He wanted her to see him for who he was, unpolished, without the layers of wealth masking his intentions. When he stepped into Maggie's diner, the bell above the door jingled softly, drawing Emily's attention. She was balancing a tray of plates, her frizzy auburn curls escaping her ponytail, but her smile was as radiant as ever. "Welcome to Maggie's," she greeted him warmly. "Sit wherever you'd like." Nathaniel chose a booth near the window, his eyes following her as she worked. She wasn't just going through the motions, she truly cared. He noticed how she helped an elderly man count his change, offered free coffee refills to a struggling mother, and even took time to chat with a regular who looked particularly down. By the time Emily brought his bill, Nathaniel barely glanced at it. Instead, he slid an envelope under the plate before quietly leaving. Emily didn't notice until she began clearing the table. When she opened the envelope, her breath caught. Inside was a thick stack of $100 bills, far more than any normal tip. Her hands trembled as she counted the money. Was this a mistake? A joke? She ran outside, scanning the streets, but the black car she had noticed earlier was gone. The revelation. Nathaniel returned to the diner over the following weeks, sometimes ordering food, sometimes just sitting and observing. Emily noticed him, of course, how could she not? He stood out among the usual crowd of blue-collar workers and college students. But there was something kind in his eyes, even when he seemed distracted. One evening, as Emily refilled his coffee, Nathaniel finally spoke. "You have a good heart," he said, his voice low. Emily blinked, caught off guard. Thank you. You didn't hesitate to help that homeless boy," he continued. "Most people would have just walked by." Emily hesitated. He needed help. That's what people are supposed to do, isn't it? Not everyone would, Nathaniel replied, his gaze steady. He slid a folded piece of paper across the table. "Open this when I leave." With that, he stood, leaving Emily more confused than ever. When she unfolded the note moments later, her hands nearly dropped it. A check for $50,000 was inside. Written in Nathaniel's neat handwriting were the words, "For your kindness. Build the life you deserve." Emily's heart raced as she clutched the check. Who was this man? Why was he doing this? Full circle. Emily's life changed overnight. She paid off her debts, helped her brother with his education, and finally took the first steps toward her dream, opening her own small cafe, a warm, welcoming place where anyone, homeless or not, could find a meal and kindness. But questions about Nathaniel still lingered. Why had he chosen her? Why give her so much? The answer came one cool evening when a familiar black car pulled up beside her as she walked home. The window rolled down. "I was hoping I'd find you," Nathaniel said with a grin. Emily stopped in her tracks, heart pounding. "You again? Who are you?" He stepped out of the car, looking less like a billionaire and more like a regular man. "Nathaniel Hayes," he admitted, CEO of Hayes Global Enterprises. Emily's jaw dropped. "I didn't want you to know who I was at first," he explained. "I wanted to see you, really see you, without all the titles." She was speechless. "I saw you that night in the rain," he continued. "And you reminded me of something I'd forgotten, that kindness, real kindness, is rare and precious." He handed her a folder. Inside was the deed to the cafe she had dreamed of. It was hers. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered, tears in her eyes. "Because you deserve it," Nathaniel said simply. "And because the world needs more people like you." Emily opened her cafe months later. It became a haven, just as she'd imagined, a place where no one was turned away, and everyone was treated with dignity. And every so often, a sleek black car would pull up outside, and Nathaniel Hayes would walk in, not as a billionaire, but as a friend. Because sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can change the course of a life, and sometimes, it can change too.